I want you to imagine a classroom where AI is really handling the routine tasks. It's freeing professors so professors can focus on delivering personalized mentorship, like lead impactful discussions, inspire critical thinking. So AI really could amplify the creativity and the empathy, and it really can help and enrich education rather than really diminishing the human contribution.
Work is changing, quickly, irreversibly, and often invisibly. I'm Chris Fanchi, and this show is about understanding where it's headed and how we stay human in the process. Hello and welcome to Human Work After AI, the show where we explore the future of work, technology, and what it means to stay human in the age of AI. We're speaking with founders, technologists, and thinkers who are navigating the shift toward an AI-powered economy. Today's guest is Mohamed Farag, founder of Analytics for Everyone, a professor of AI at Carnegie Mellon University, and a faculty member at both CMU's SciLab and the Applied Generative AI Group. He's also part of the HBR Advisory Council and a member of the NAIRR Review Panel, where he brings an educator's lens to one of the most pressing tensions of our time: how to bring AI into education without losing trust, privacy, or human connection. Mohamed, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Chris, for having me. I'm delighted to be here. Looking forward to our conversation today.
Fantastic. Glad to have you. So I like to start with my guest's background. Take us back to your beginnings. What first drew you into technology?
Looking back, my journey wasn't really a straight line. So, it was a series of decisions, some bold, some uncertain, that shaped who I am today. So, I graduated from a small university in Egypt called Minofia University. I was fortunate, really, to receive an offer to stay and work there. But then there was that thing inside me that kept nudging me toward a different path. So I wanted to pursue higher education abroad, not just for the sake of a degree, but because I believed that learning in the US would give me a broader perspective. Maybe one day I could return back and bring that knowledge back to Egypt, to where I came from, to make a difference. So I landed in Iowa in October, just me, suitcase, and a dream. I didn't go to a big name school though. It was a small university in Iowa, but really gave me the foundation and the space to grow. So after completing my master's, then I moved to the corporate world, work it full time while pursuing my doctorate degree at the same time. It wasn't easy. I definitely do not suggest it. The idea of balancing work, research, and life, but it really taught me discipline and resilience. So eventually I found my way into academia again. First, I started teaching at the University of Pittsburgh and then at Carnegie Mellon, initially as part-time lecturer, and then something clicked. While teaching and mentoring students, I began to see patterns. I started seeing people are doing things in a certain way. I felt that AI wasn't really just about fancy models. It was really not about a large-scale enterprise solutions. So I started asking and questioning, how can I use AI and how can we collectively use AI to make everyday's life better? So, how can we make our life more efficient? How can we make our life more accessible? So, and the question became my passion. So, it drove me really to make one of the hardest decisions of my career. So I stepped away from the corporate industry, doubled down on my role at Carnegie Mellon, and I started implementing my vision to pretty much launch the company and start looking into how I can make AI more accessible to everyone. How can we make our lives more efficient? So that was really the beginning here. And that's when Analytics for Everyone was born. So a project was really rooted in that idea, of the hardest decisions in my career. But I want to say that AI, in my opinion, should be accessible for everyone. That's why we called it Analytics for Everyone. So whether you are a student, whether you're a small business owner, whether you're a nonprofit leader, you deserve to understand and use the power of analytics to pretty much drive an edge, to drive a change. I built Analytics for Everyone to bridge that gap. And every day, I'm definitely grateful for that winding road and the ideas that I had and, the decision that I made that led me here. from Minnesota to Iowa, then to Carnegie Mellon in Pittsburgh, to launching analytics for everyone. Interestingly enough, we even had our own waves analytics for everyone. I'm sure we're going to be talking about this, in the next few questions.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what first got you interested in AI specifically?
I used to think about AI as something that's helping me, do my daily tasks. So pretty much it was a tool. I was trying to teach AI to like pretty much automate my routine, help pretty much take some of the boring tasks out of the table. But then with the growth of AI, now AI is actually teaching me how to do my own tasks. So AI has been growing massively in multiple directions. With definitely, it has its own baggage. Some good, some bads, that have coming out of this. But you know, definitely it can help us, be much more productive in our daily life every day.
How old were you when you first started thinking about AI as a career path? And what was the state of the technology at the time that you first got interested?
So I mean, I think that was, I want to say in 2014, when I started thinking about doing the dissertation and the thesis in the domain of AI, because my doctorate was also focused on AI. So that's really when I started thinking about doing things in AI. Definitely, generative AI was not on the table. AI was there, pretty much on the traditional route. We're talking about supervised learning, unsupervised learning. Those are, the most common patterns that have been spoken about in academia and industry for decades. So that being said, I want to say I'm privileged that I kind of jumped on the wave of generative AI right when it started in 2019. I stick to that, and that's where analytics for everyone was born to do. Is pretty much to stick to that. Use generative AI to empower people.
So, do you feel like you saw this coming? What we're going through now, what we're seeing now, back in 2014 and even in 2019? Did you see the trajectory going the way it has, or did this come as a bit of a surprise to even you?
So the concept of generative AI has been there for, I think, at least 2 decades, but it has been mostly in research labs. So it wasn't really until that aha moment that took it out from research labs to people's hands, to people's use. So it started with, I would say, the big jump was when ChatGPT was released for the first time, and made accessible to other people or to the public. And that's when things started really to shift, things started to change. Because we had a lot of great technologies, but they're always in the research labs. It's really when someone takes that and put it in the hands of the people, this is when a difference started to be made. And in many cases, you reach that aha moment where you're going to see a massive trajectory.
So let's talk a little bit about analytics for everyone. What was the origin of that company? Where did the concept come from, and how has it progressed over the years?
So we started in 2021, right in the middle of the pandemic. We saw how people are liking podcasts. At that time, everyone was talking about, podcasts, people are quarantining, and the thought of how we can deliver knowledge, at their convenience in a meaningful, useful manner. But then when we jumped in the podcast industry, we noticed that you know, there are really plenty of podcasts that are out there that are not properly indexed. So there's really not a good search engine for podcasts that you could use. Google Podcasts were there, Apple Podcasts, but these have really a very, very small share of the podcasts that are available out there. So our mission was, hey, let's see actually how we can collect all of these podcasts and let's create an AI search engine that pretty much can help find or, the podcasts that would align best with your niche. And we did so. We got I think one of the largest podcast databases that are out there. We're talking about 60 million podcasts that we had in a single database. And we started thinking, right, how we can make these are accessible to people, and we started creating, AI algorithms to pretty much, generate insights from these podcasts and start aligning them with people's niche and people's thoughts. But then, toward the end of 2021, and maybe early 2023, something happened in the market. Some of the bigger players, like Spotify, Apple, they started to take the market from the kind of the open feed type of market we were relying on as one of the key factors of our business model in launching the podcast search engine, to more of the paywall. They call them the garden wallets. where pretty much, they started acquiring the podcast studios. They start having their own exclusive shows, which would really limit the access to those podcasts, for people with subscriptions. So, and that kind of added a big challenge to us. Should we actually continue with this? Or is that more of a pattern that we're going to see growing, and therefore it's gonna impact our ability to provide the kind of more accessible podcast search engine to the people? And our assessment at that point was that, well, looks like it's this pattern is going to grow, and actually, our hypotheses were proven accurate in the past couple of years. The a lot of podcasts now are kind of behind subscription walls. You have some exclusive shows that are pretty much you have to pay to watch, kind of business. We felt that we're not going to be able to make that highly democratized to people. So, and at that point, wearing the faculty hat, kind of helped me unleash some of the really, some of the profound challenges that, the faculty and students are seeing. So if you look in higher education today, there is a massive faculty burnout. In many universities, they are suffering low student retention. We're talking about declining engagement, really major hurdles in, that are really holding, institutions back. At Analytics for Everyone, we decided to put our hats on of, let's make this accessible to everyone. So we tackle these issues head on. And the way that we went about it is we said, okay, let's imagine the professors being freed from all of the repetitive tasks, from all of the routine activities that they have to do. Let's imagine our students being deeply engaged through personalized learning. Let's imagine institutions trusting their AI capabilities in a full capacity. So we built a patented platform that would really leverage those intelligent AI agents to automate lecture summarization, to generate quizzes, seamlessly really integrate with existing university systems. And we're trying to harness this, massive capabilities with our NVIDIA partnership, being members of the NVIDIA Inception program. And we decided to build a goal, or to put a goal, that, hey, we're going to be delivering accurate, we're going to be delivering scalable, we're going to be delivering educational experience, fully inclusive, to empower universities to focus on what truly matters to them. So inspire the students and help advance the knowledge. Have the professors being completely focused on leading complex discussions, provide personalized mentors, and leave AI to pretty much take care of the repeated tasks, take care of those routine activities that can be then automated using a platform like, what Analytics for Everyone is offering.
Yeah, so really freeing up the faculty and staff to be more involved on the personal side of things.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think that's the direction that we're really gonna see people moving as AI is able to take over some of these menial tasks. Do you feel like the university systems, the institutions understand that there's a shift that's going to happen? Or do you feel like they're still kind of stuck in the we can make it work the way it is mentality?
So we had over 200 interviews with different faculty and university leaders, nationwide. And what was really interesting for us to see is the faculty and university leaders, the vast majority of them, they agree on, AI is here to stay, and looks like we're gonna have to. There's gonna be some changes coming up. Now it's really the response is what we saw differences at. So, like, some universities like to take more of a conservative approach. Some universities are more like higher risk takers. So some of them are willing to pilot, something new, something fancy, take that risk, be at the top of the innovation, while others, like, let other, other universities are saying, let other schools that, take their share. They're probably gonna fail with that couple of times. Once we reach a stable, ground there, we can jump in. So there are really different perspectives on how universities are reacting to this. But I want to say, from our interviews, what we have seen is a common pattern that, universities are agreeing that generative AI is here to stay. And we saw some universities are actually having their own generative AI, either task forces or, smaller groups who are pretty much trying to assess how they can leverage generative AI, in their own university processes and different subsystems.
Are there any indicators or trends that you're able to see that tell you which universities are going to be more likely to be early adopters or more likely to be interested in making the pivot or making some changes to the way they operate based on AI versus those that are going to just stand back and wait for things to develop on their own?
So there is a cost factor associated with that. So I want to say the private universities, some universities who have the appetite and that they're eager to go head to head with what we call elite universities, those are seems to be the ones who tend to be higher risk taker, and it makes sense. If you want to be branded with innovation, you want to be on the top of things. So I think they understand the risks that are associated with that. They understand that they may need to change that back and forth to some extent. But if you think about it, that will brand them with innovation. When people talk about cloud infrastructure and cloud platforms, for many many years, people have used that synonymly with AWS, because AWS started this, took the risk to jump in and start doing some of the early attempts. Some of them failed, some of them passed, but they kind of took the larger market share of the pie, and they got branded with that cloud for many many years to afterwards. So and similarly, in the university domain, some people are more conservative. They don't want big disruptions to come their way, at least in the short term, while others are saying, well, what if it works? If it works, then it's great. We're going to be mentioned in the news as one of these very first few universities who have tried something that's innovative and out of the box like this.
Yeah, absolutely. So how do you deal with the privacy aspect of things? Obviously, student information, faculty information, a lot of that there's a lot of privacy behind that. What kind of challenges are you facing and how have you overcome them to deal with that side of things?
So when we built the current product that we have at Minutes for Everyone, that was one of the big drivers too into making this. Is you know you see some instructors would spend many many years developing an IP content, something that would be unique to them, and then maybe they share those in some sort of materials to the students, and then the students knowingly or unknowingly, in many cases also unintentionally, they would just put that on ChatGPT or any large language models. I don't want to be specific here about a specific platform. And then they would ask it like some questions out of that PDF. But what happens behind the scenes is that this file or these materials are now part of the training materials in many cases that are going to be used for future training cycles of the large language model. That would lead to those professors losing their IPs, losing efforts that they have spent years and years trying to build, trying to customize, justify based on the student needs. So it's really eliminating years of experiences that they have built, you know, by simply just doing something that might be unintentional here, in order to grab a piece of information. So what we did, we tried to wave on this. Like we said, hey, like this is unacceptable. We understand those concerns, but at the same time, we understand the needs and demands from students. So what we did, we built a document repository on our end. This document repository is going to be a SOC 2 certified. It's not communicating with with publicly hosted large language models at all. And then we're building our own AI agents that are helping streamline the faculty workflows and student workflows, summarizing the lectures, generating quizzes, publishing them to the learning management system. We're doing all of this, pretty much in a secured infrastructure that's not even interfacing with public large language models. So from a student perspective, the students are still getting powerful AI capabilities back. You're still getting, something that's, equivalent to the public, the large language model. I'm going to say it's probably even better than what they're doing because we have a bunch of use cases and features that we can talk about, of course. And from a faculty perspective, they are getting their material secured. We're building those integrations that are linking our own system that contains their own document management that's secured, that will pretty much, in our SOC 2 certified infrastructure, and linking them to the learning management system. So no one who's unauthorized to view the materials will ever get access to those materials.
No, that's great. That's really important. So what generative AI or large language models are you actually utilizing, or did you build your own?
So from an AI tool standpoint, we're definitely using state of the art. We have built a patent to pretty much analyze the documents and build our own multi-agent framework that's pretty much using different AI agents to fight hallucinations, mitigate errors in the content, and pretty much also be able to publish materials, publish quizzes and exams and content to learning management systems that the professors are leveraging. So I want to say we have used pretty much some other experiences from people. We're also, to some extent, I want to say, trying to be on top of the edge of the open source frameworks that are available out there. But we're prioritizing security and privacy to our customers. So we're trying to offer them the max security that we can get and pretty much protect their content. So I want to say from an AI tool standpoint, it's either we built it in-house or it's something that we are pretty much fully trusting and have a full control over to make sure that there are no leaks that are happening to any of this content. Yet, to mention, some of the accuracy metrics that we are achieving are even outweighing some of these public large language models metrics. So accuracy is also on the top of our priority list.
Yeah, sure. That makes sense. You don't want students getting the wrong information when they're trying to learn about a new subject or something like that. That's
Absolutely.
obviously hugely important. So, how did your experience with the podcasting approach inform what you're working on now? What did you learn while doing your podcast evaluation system that has impacted this company?
So when we're talking about when we're doing the podcast industry, our subs I want to say our revenue model was B2C. And I think that was one of the things that we found out or concluded that B2C products are really not, they're a bit risky when it comes to AI products, mainly because in our case, we're building data as a service product. So we had plenty of podcasts that we're storing, and the cost of hosting these data and running analytics on top of this was very, very expensive. So in order to reach a break-even point, we had to plan for thousands and thousands of customers, in order to reach that break-even point. So that's one thing that we tried to avoid when we moved from the podcast industry to the higher ed. Interesting enough, the underlying techniques were not so much different. The podcasts are just, AI streams, like pretty much audio. And if you think about the lectures, lectures could be PDFs, but they could also be videos. And video is really an audio and like, whatever images are associated with that audio. So there was some definitely reuse of the techniques that we have built in the podcast industry, and we reshifted them to pretty much align them and make them more productive for our, higher ed use case. That being said, as I mentioned, B2C didn't work out for us. We had a very, very expensive bill with monthly, operation of just running stuff on the cloud. So, one of the things that we learned is, we gotta have to plan. It's either you find a way to lower the monthly bill, or find a way to offer this maybe at B2B level, and we did both. So the higher ed solution that we're offering it mainly for B2B, mainly for higher ed universities, and we also found ways to lower the bill by using more commodity components that can definitely lead to a much cheaper monthly cost, and therefore that would lead to us being able to bill our customers with a much lower cost. And in fact, I want to say in our last comparisons, our last assessment, our cost is about 1/8 of what our competitors are charging their customers. But definitely that kind of change in perspective helped us very well in positioning our product.
Yeah, that's great. That's an excellent selling point. So, what has your go-to-market strategy looked like? What is the sales cycle like when you're working with these universities?
So I want to say we have been doing pilots, and I think that and that was one of the things that we took pride of, as we tried to make our faculty, or the faculty members, or everyone is pretty much at the top of the process. We tried to prioritize them. So what we were trying to do, we're trying to listen to them, listen to what they need, talk to them, make sure that whatever we're offering is actually going to help faculty. And that kind of helped, by the way, pivot our architecture and the way that we're building our solution. Because at the beginning, we're building a lot of complex tools, a lot of pretty much very hard to use, but they're top advanced AI techniques. But we found out after talking to many faculty and students that this is not actually what they need. They need something that's simple, and they're prioritizing integration. They don't want a lot of effort. They don't want a lot of headache to move data around. What we're aiming for here is how, building an AI that can empower instructors, that can help them be more productive in their classroom, and prioritize integration of the system, making sure that it's a seamless way of communicating with that system from their current infrastructure, and lower the cost as much as we can. And talking to faculty members and students with that perspective definitely helped us shape our go-to-market strategy, from going with the state of the art, those complex tools, 5, 10 models where you have to choose one of them, to just limit that to a very simple workflow. You ask us the question, we're going to find a way to help you and serve you, and we're going to integrate seamlessly with your infrastructure, so you don't have to worry about a lot of complexities in moving data around, or any issues with privacy or security.
Yeah, that makes sense. So as you're implementing these, and there are some ethical considerations. You're starting to talk about AI taking the place in some regards of the educator. How do you strike that balance between AI being a support and the student still having agency over their own learning, and actually being able to demonstrate that they've learned something, and that they're not just regurgitating what the AI has given?
Yeah, at Analytics for Everyone, our belief is responsible AI implementation is paramount. So we have clear boundaries, we have clear safeguards, and we believe that these should also must include transparency in how AI generated content is being sourced, which we're trying to implement. We're also trying to keep human in the loop all the time, to pretty much ensure that things are, being properly implemented. We're building a strict ethical governance framework that's offered in our solution. It's really about how you're providing back the information to the students is what's making the difference. We're not trying to really, feed, if I may use that term, use a spoon, or provide a spoon to feed the student. That's not our goal. We still would like to keep intellectual intellectual abilities, are there to, to pretty much be expanded and be grown. So some of the things that we're implementing, for example, is we're allowing students to self-test their own knowledge, the in the lectures. But at the same time, whatever tests that we're generating or quizzes that we're generating for the students, these are going to be different from what the faculty members are seeing or generating for their test or their own assessments or their own exams. We're able to provide ways of for the students to be able to, like, 3 levels, test their knowledge with easy questions, medium difficulty questions, hard questions, challenging. And we built our own psychologically, focused model on defining what is an easy question, what is a medium difficulty question, and what is a hard question. So we believe that academic integrity should be protected. And in our system, we're working to build the necessary techniques and the necessary tools that will ensure that students are always getting the knowledge they need to pretty much summarize the work that's needed for them, but at the same time, not make them short of thinking. So yet allow them to grow their intellectual abilities. And that's mainly because of our psychological model that we built to summarize the lectures and self-assess the students, would still help them understand, hey, you have summarized the lecture, but you still actually need to go through the materials in order to be able to bypass some of these challenging questions that you're seeing in the self-assessment.
So, as an educator yourself, and given you're talking to a lot of different educators in the process of rolling out this technology, what do you see as being the future in terms of the classroom's role in education versus AI being able to self guide students, to be able to learn at their own pace, to be able to identify where they're at and adjust the curriculum and adjust the teaching to match their needs and their current status?
Well, I want to say, from my perspective, what I'm seeing is not going to replace educators. It's going to empower them. And I want you to imagine a classroom where AI is really handling the routine tasks. It's freeing professors, so professors can focus on delivering personalized mentorship, like lead impactful discussions, inspire critical thinking. So AI really could amplify the creativity and the empathy, and it really can help and enrich education rather than really diminishing the human contribution. So what we're seeing right now, what I think is going to happen in the higher education generally, is there will be new roles that will emerge. I think, we're going to be looking into AI literacy educators. We're going to be looking at AI ethics officers, AI integration specialists. So we're already seeing these in some industrial positions, and I think that will actually transcend to the academic domain as well. I think faculty and administrators are going to develop over the upcoming, few upcoming years. They're going to develop skills around really interpreting and validating AI output, shaping those ethical guidelines, fostering this deeper human AI collaboration. AI is here to stay. And I think those who are going to survive and be at the top of the wave are those who know how to leverage AI to make their lives more productive and more efficient.
Where does the balance on intellectual property fall in terms of being able to protect the creator, and especially when we're talking about academic intellectual property, being able to protect the person who came up with it versus making it available and making these concepts and this knowledge available to a broader audience? What are your thoughts on that?
I think that's a big topic, and I think it's, to be honest, I think it's still in the works. Defining those, you'll see a lot of companies out there are trying to implement enterprise guardrails. That's always important. Now, in our solution that we're building at Analytics for Everyone, what we're trying to do, we're trying to actually make sure that the work is being properly cited and reference it properly to those who are actually providing the information. In the response that's being generated out of our system, we're always giving you references to the actual sources where we got the information from. Now, I don't think that in many platforms aim to do this, but I think there are some accuracy issues about that. But in our platform, we have nailed it down. I think based on the strategy that we have taken, that was implemented with much higher accuracy. So, and that's what we need to do. We want to make sure that we're giving credits to people who are using this. I think with the initial wave of AI, generative AI specifically, copyrights, were an issue. And honestly, I think they will continue to be an issue for, at least for the general public. But what we're trying to do, at least normalize this at university level and, at higher ed level, or, enterprise level, where pretty much, if you're using some resources, then you're predicting the IP copyrights there, and pretty much not making sure that you're providing the proper references to those content. Now, we want to say something also that we're doing here at Analytics for Everyone is when we're integrating the content from the private systems, from the university systems to our own local infrastructure, we always give the instructor the ability to mark certain content as private. What we mean by that, by marking it as a private content, it will never come up in one of the AI agents that are being used either by students or even by the faculty themselves, unless they have to enable, like, a special flag that will give them access to their original content. To build that kind of hierarchy and manage that kind of communication with our solution to ensure that non-copyrighted content, or to rephrase this, want to make sure that copyrighted content is not misused, entities.
Mhm. So, say we fast forward 5 years, what does a university that fully embraces your platform and philosophy look like?
So I think that what we're looking for here is that it's going to be a university that's pretty much offering democratized access to knowledge. The university is going to offer a lot more inclusive, a lot more dynamic, a lot more global experience, happier faculty, much more satisfied, and, well, I don't want to say satisfied students, but satisfied in the sense that they're getting personalized learning. They got faculty members who have provided them with all of the attention they needed, all, got them through routine tasks, challenged them to think, provided them with some unusual activities that they can do, things that cannot be done with just AI. So that's what we're looking for is, jump up the student learning experience. Students are going to get personalized learning, some from our system, some from, the freed up time that faculty are going to receive. Faculty are going to be less burned out. They're going to be focusing more on helping or assessing the students, fulfilling one of their main and major education, educational missions is really to be focused with the students. And universities are going to lot- feel a lot better about being branded with innovation, about pretty much having centralized access to all of the content that being published or being copyrighted within the school or within the university system, and allowing those only who have authorized access to pretty much access the right type of content, and protect the IPs, the private content that was developed, to pretty much be accessible by the entities that are expected to or that are authorized to access that content.
So I'm going to let you out of here on this. Well, final question. Putting both your educator hat on and your entrepreneur hat, what has you most excited and potentially most concerned about AI as it becomes more embedded in education?
Most excited is that AI is now teaching me how to do a lot of tasks. AI is really helping us find different ways to brainstorm, to come up with new ideas. Can be your buddy, in many aspects. It can help you with a lot of things. If you're struggling to communicate your idea, AI will be there to help you communicate it much more efficiently. So it will kind of be a complementary buddy to you for those tasks that you won't be able to do fully, or at max capacity. AI will be there to support you and help you with them. Now, to be fair, what's concerning me about this is what I just mentioned, because that moves the issue from being not able to do it in the sense of the skills or the ability, lack of ability. Now, with AI, you will have pretty much all the abilities to do everything you want, hypothetically. But the challenge is it's going to be up to your intention. So you can do this. You can use AI to do a lot of great things. You can use AI to do a lot of bad things too. So it's really, AI was released before we had really a solid safeguards or solid ethical guidelines around it. We're now trying to figure out how to do that. For some businesses, for some areas, might be late actually to do this, because some people have already taken advantage of that. So it's really, you're shifting the focus from lack of ability or lack of skill set to be pure intention. Evil is everywhere. It's unfortunate. So my biggest concern is that a lot of people are going to be ending up using this to do things that are really, really bad. And they will have the tools and the abilities to do that because of the availability of the AI.
So overall, would you consider yourself optimistic about the direction that things are moving, or do you feel like we need to put more guardrails in place faster?
So, I think I wanna split my answer into two pieces here. Whether I'm optimistic or not, I am optimistic. Now, I think what we're seeing right now, it's a period of, I want to say, temporary time frame. It's not going to be the final state. What we're dealing with here is a bit of transient, and it's going to change. Now, what's making me feel optimistic is that we're already thinking about guardrails. We have implemented, guardrails and safeguards in our product, and many others are also thinking about how to do this. The big, large language model providers are also considering this. So it's part of what's being discussed. It's part of what's being researched. We haven't, of course, reached a final, solid shape on that yet. And it will take, in my opinion, it will take years for this to shape up. But eventually, I think we'll be in a much more productive state with much more solid safeguards and guardrails.
Great. Well, Mohammed, that's a great way to close this out. So this has been a fascinating conversation. Thank you so much for coming on. Can you please tell us where people can follow your work and learn more about analytics for everyone?
Thanks so much, Chris. It was great, to have this conversation with you here. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for having me on the show. Some luck with it. So you can always, catch me up on LinkedIn. So it's linkedin.com/im/gr-farag, Farag. And you can always, feel free to check out our company's website, a4e.tech. Hit me up there, and I'll definitely be happy to be in touch. Thank you.
Fantastic. To everyone listening, please be sure to share the show if you enjoyed this episode. Leave us a review, subscribe, and as always, stay human. Thank you for listening to this episode of Human Work After AI. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast provider so you never miss an episode, and we'll see you next time.